Arizona State University is located in Indian country. There are 22 tribal nations in Arizona. ASU's campuses are situated on the homelands of many indigenous peoples, including the Akimel O'odham and Peepash.
Arizona State University recognizes the original inhabitants of these lands
and recognizes that they still reside throughout the Phoenix metropolitan area.
And we recognize the impact of their wisdom and generosity towards us.
If you've flown into the valley, you have undoubtedly seen the Salt River Project canals that surround the area.
Those modern-day canals follow the framework of the canals originally constructed by ancestral Sonoran Desert people, Huhulcam, to make this area both livable and a place where peoples could thrive.
We acknowledge that the modern-day indigenous nations that descended from the ancestral peoples are the original inhabitants of this land.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our event. My name is Iveta Silova, and I'm Professor of Comparative Education and Associate Dean of Global Engagement at Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. We are thrilled to have all of you here for this very special event on education and democracy in a harder time. This event is in the footsteps of another large event that we just held at ASU, where we were celebrating the launch of the latest book that David Orr edited. So the book is called Democracy in a Harder Time. So we had 2 full days of really fascinating and very important conversations about 2 interrelated crises: the democracy crisis and the climate crisis. And we had very important discussions with people from different disciplines and about different ways, multiple perspectives across multiple units at ASU and many guests as well. So we had conversations with journalists and engineers and architects and people who are studying food and health. And today we are bringing this conversation to the field of education. And partially because we think that education is at the very core of these 2 crises. And actually, before we jump into the conversation, I wanted to do a very quick poll with the audience today. So if you think about your own education experience, how prepared do you feel for democracy in a harder time? So you can put your thumbs up if you feel really prepared, or thumbs down if you're not prepared, or anywhere in between. For the people online, you can use emojis, or you can type in the chat. So let's do it. How prepared do you feel to face democracy in a harder time? All right. Well, it's mostly this and this. All right. And the question, I have another follow-up question. How important do you think education is for addressing these 2 interrelated crises, the crisis of democracy and climate crisis? Okay, let's do it again. All right, so excellent. So our whole 2 series of panels today will be dedicated to the role of education in addressing the planetary crisis, climate crisis, and the crisis of democracy. And we brought together faculty and students and school students and university students and doctoral students and community members to discuss these issues together. And we have 2 panels with a break in between. And we'll start with the first panel that will be led by my colleague Raj Pandya, who joined Arizona State University just recently as a Fulton Presidential Professor of Practice at Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College and an Executive Director of the Global Futures Education Alliance. Before, he served as a Vice President of Community Service and Founding Director of the Thriving Earth Exchange at the American Geophysical Union. So Raj will introduce our panelists and we'll start the discussion now. Thank you again.
Thank you. Good morning. That was a call and response kind of thing. So good morning. Thank you. My name is Raj. I work at ASU. I am super excited about this panel. We're joined by a really intergenerational group of students and scholars. We're going to start off, well, I'm going to describe who the panelists are, then we'll hear from each of them a little bit about what they're doing, what they're working on, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers. So as you think about questions that you might want to ask, please hold them until all the panelists are done, and then we'll have a nice discussion. Our panelists are Itzel Enrique and Andrea Avila, who are 8th graders and youth STEAM scholars, 8th graders in Phoenix. Their teacher, Miss Janet Ankrum, is also joining us today. They're going to join us virtually. Also joining us virtually, Ella Bruckner and Jenny Mendoza, students at Sunnyside High School, and their teacher, Ms. Melanie Coates, may be available to join, may not, but I want to acknowledge her and her role in this project as well. In person, we're joined by 3 panelists, Teresa Sosa, who is dealing with parking challenges on this campus. I'm sure many of you who come here a lot can relate to that. She'll be joining us shortly. We also have Emmanuel Adiluju, who is a doctoral student in Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, and Mauricio Leon Juarez, who's a undergraduate student in the School of Sustainability and Youth Engagement Coordinator for the Regional Center for Expertise in Education for Sustainable Development. With that, before we get started, we're going to begin with a poem, and the poem's going to be read by Itzel and Andrea.
Your one wild and precious life, Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, and who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes.
Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life.
Thank you very much. We're going to jump into the panel discussions now. Our first panelist is Emmanuel.
Yeah, I would like to first of all start by saying that I hope you can hear me clearly, right? Okay, so I would like to make a case for the work we have been doing. I would like to paint a picture about the work. So from my experience and research, there are about 100,000 or 130,000 K-12 schools in the United States. And these schools generate as much carbon emissions as 8.6 million homes. Now, this presents an opportunity to involve students in sustainability-related actions. But that is not the case. It is quite saddening. I know we are supposed to talk about the hope that we have for the future, but we did a systematic review and we looked at studies that have featured sustainability actions and education. And we realized that of the studies that involved sustainability actions, only 25% of the studies that met our inclusion criteria involve students in some forms of action. It means that students do not have representation in sustainability education as much as what we would want. Now, so what we are presenting in our research group is the action-oriented pedagogy framework, which basically positions students as active participants, taking agentic action towards doing real work with real consequences. We believe that students can take up any of these 6 roles in any combination. My colleague, Nico Oster, is going to talk more about action-oriented pedagogy. But the major thing I want to drive home here is this, that the action-oriented pedagogy is based on 3 major needed shifts. The first shift is the need for us to make students to begin to imagine the future they want to live in. How are their current actions right now going to affect the future they are going to experience? Because we are not going to be here when they're going to be experiencing that future, most likely, right? So we want to begin to inculcate in them how to begin to anticipate the future they would want to live in. How are their actions right now going to impact that future? How are your actions right now going to impact that future? The second shift that is needed is a shift from individualism to collectivism. We need to begin to inculcate in students for them to begin to realize there's a need for them to have a cross-linked epistemic dependence on one another. Begin to look at how you can solve problems that really matter to you as a group. Work with your teachers and your colleagues to design solutions to problems that are immediate to your needs. And thirdly, we need to begin to inculcate in students systems thinking. It is quite saddening to note that the current educational construct favors treating complex problems using linear models, which is not the case because sustainability problems are complex problems. But the way the educational construct is designed is such that we do not give opportunities for students to begin to think about developing very complex solutions to complex problems. So the ultimate thing that I'm trying to drive home here is the fact that students need to be given agency in taking actions towards problems that really matter to them. I believe I can talk all day about this, but let me just stop here for now in case you have any question.
That was lovely. Thank you for starting us off.
Yeah.
And kind of building on this theme of students taking real meaningful action. I actually want to invite Andrea and Itzel to tell us a little bit about Catalina Ventura.
Thank you so much for inviting us here. While we're getting the slide ready, I just want to convey the message that initially when we were invited to be a part of this, this conference that the girls had said, do we want to do just the girls or the girls and the teacher? And initially they said, Miss Ingram, we would like you to be there with us too. But I'll be honest, the girls are fully capable and motivated and excited that I literally have done barely anything with them other than just a little bit of guidance. And so the girls have really like owned this presentation and they've done all the parts of it. And so I think you're really going to learn a lot from them. And I think it's going to be really fun to hear what they have to present.
Thank you for that introduction. It's nice to see all 3 of you. And I had a chance to see this presentation yesterday. It's pretty awesome. Hey, maybe while we're loading up the slides, I know you're also involved in a pretty cool another project with cups. Do you maybe we could talk about that first while the slides are getting ready?
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, so we are partnered with an organization called Better for All Cups. It is a women-owned company that they make cups from plants and pressed seed oil. And these Better for All cups are benefit our planet because they break down easily for worms and for our compost and for our gardens to benefit our landfills to where these cups will break down instead of actual plastic. On the other hand, we have red solo cups that are made of plastic, but they're really harmful to our planet because the plastic don't really break down as much, and it's really harmful for our landfills. And when our plastic goes into the landfills make methane gas that is very harmful to our planet and to humans.
Thank you.
I'll just add a little bit onto that too. Along with testing out these cups, we're given 3 environments to test them. One environment is the
Tumblers,
tumblers, so we're tumbling compost. Another environment is the
tower garden, the soil tower garden.
A soil tower garden that has worms also in composting. And another environment is the
Worm pail.
The worm pails. And so at the end of this experiment, the students will be generating a lab report and just taking pictures of the cup broken down before and after, like at different stages of 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 14, 16 weeks. And then we'll see at what stage do the worms actually, are they able to decompose the cup? Because again, this is made out of pressed seed oil and plants. And so it actually is turning the food scraps or the cup into the best kind of soil that we can't even buy in stores.
Thanks. And thank you very much. It looks like the slides are ready. So if you're comfortable, we can start with the presentation.
Sounds great.
Hi, I'm Andrea. Our Cultivate Catalina garden began 4 years ago. We are carrying on the legacy of youth citizen scientists at our school. We began by conducting interviews with our neighbors and families about what they like to eat. This community ethnography helps us plant foods that our community will like and can use in their recipes. We have 2 planting seasons during the school year. We carefully research to find out what plants need in order to grow well and which plants do better in a winter season or in spring season. Here are some new ideas for this school year. Next slide, please. Hi, I'm Excel. We're starting to prepare the soil to regrow our gardens because during the summer, most of the plants died due to extreme heat. Throughout this year, we have different teams working on composting in worm piles, composting in tumblers, and in soil tower gardens to see which makes the most richest and nutritious compost for our gardens. This will minimize food waste such as greens and browns from going into the landfills that give off harmful methane gas. We're doing our part to protect the environment while helping out the local community with healthy foods, conserving water, and generating clean, affordable electricity and more. Next slide, please. Here is how we do it. You might be wondering what are greens and browns. Let me show you. Some greens and browns that we get come from our cafeteria or our homes. Some greens that benefit the worms are banana peels, apple cores, spinach stems, and any leftover fruits and vegetables scraps without stickers, waxes, or plastic. Some browns are coffee grounds, dried leaves, and cardboard. We use a 3-bucket system. It is important to drill holes in the lid because worms and compost both need oxygen. We also drill holes in the bottom of the middle bucket so the worm tea can drain out. The worm tea is great for our gardens. Next slide, please. It is important to add extras to the worm soil because it acts like gravel to the worms' insides and helps worms digest the food scraps. The soil should feel like a wet sponge. Worms breathe through their skin. The soil moisturizer needs to be just right, not too wet or not too dry. In places like Arizona, we had to add extra water to compost, but in more humid climates, the soil sometimes becomes over damp. The great thing about worm piles is that we're able to take them home over the summer because they are easy to transport. We have the honor to collaborate and partner with amazing organizations such as ASU, GCP High School Mentors, Let's Go Compost, Better for All Compostable Cups, and Blue Watermelon Chefs in the garden, to name a few. Next slide, please. When the compost is healthy and has the right amount of everything, there is no bugs and there is no odor. We keep our worm piles inside kitchens and classrooms. Just a warning, the worm tea does not smell great. It is, however, better than any fertilizer available in stores. Scientists still cannot figure out how to mimic the richness of the work of the worms and provided worm tea. Next slide, please. Agrivoltaics has been a key part in our STEM class since the pandemic. We currently have 12 garden beds, 6 are pollinator gardens. The other 6 are used for our agriculture plus
panel citizen science work. 3 of these garden beds are control beds or growing in full sunlight. The other 3 are used experimental. They are used under solar panels. Our research and data indicate that we're growing better plants while using less water, generating clean, sustainable energy, and lowering the temperatures of both plants and the solar panels. We continue to add irrigation to make improvements each year to leave a legacy to the next generation.
Next slide, please. Lastly, we partner with Explore Labs and UL Research Institution. Research Institution is working through rigorous investigations to build a safer, most resilient, and more sustainable world. This past summer, we accepted the invitation to learn and take action on concerns that we see here in our local communities that we have to do with fire safety and battery storage. This interests us because we use a battery system with our solar panels and need for our work to have regulations in places to keep us and our neighborhood safe.
Next slide, please. Thank you. We couldn't have done this without our partners from ASU, GCP High School, and Explore Labs.
Thank you very much. Lovely example of sort of real world learning. Mauricio, I'm going to go to you next. Ask you to describe a little bit of some of the things you're working on. And then Jenny and Ella will conclude, I think, with you. So after Mauricio, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that it's amazing that STEM programs are being adopted Arizona-wide. I know, well, some background. My name is Mauricio Juarez Leon. I am a sustainability student in my senior year, and I have mainly focused on policy and energy, but I've also done some work in sustainable education. I work for the RCE as their RCE for Sustainable Education, but I work as their youth engagement coordinator. So I focus on a lot of projects that are mainly tailored for youth and just informal or formal forms of education. For example, we have our 5 weeks, 5 ways programs coming up soon, which focuses on different events on different themes. And so that's just one of the ways that the RCE has been pushing youth inclusion and also youth participation into these type of programs. We've also had our community advisory board that has been thinking of ways of how education should be tailored for youth around Arizona. And there's been conversations about what that looks like or how that could really be made, especially in the rural parts of Arizona. I know personally for me, I went to a Title I school. So learning how all these students that come from different areas and have different effects of climate change really showcases the variabilities and also the backgrounds of all these youth. For me, I didn't really have, say, like energy, like the availability of energy versus other students. For example, not that long ago, a couple summers ago, I went the whole Arizona summer without air conditioning because we just couldn't afford it. So it was just really difficult knowing that there's stuff that's similar to my situation going around Arizona, especially going into schools that are rural and are supposed to be pushing STEM programs and supposed to be including students and getting them to know about what's been going on and just climate change in general. And also just, like how all of these energy, not deficiencies, but like inadequacies around Arizona has really affected students, especially those in rural parts of Arizona. So it's really hard to kind of come up with the narrative of how education should be pushed for youth, especially when we talk about youth in those areas.
Thank you. Really appreciate that context and sort of that understanding of kind of the larger context in which students are learning and how science and climate fits into that context. I'm excited that Teresa was able to join us, and I'd like to invite her up at any point she's comfortable. Welcome. We're going to switch to online presenters for the next, and then we'll wrap up with you if that's all right. Thanks. So our next two speakers are Ella Bruckner and Jenny Mendoza from Sunnyside High School. So Teresa, would you mind telling us a little bit about your work?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
My name is Teresa Sosa. I am a director of a community center. And well, I can say my role, but probably is more about my goal. It's actually work with the education to be a team part of, and just to try and get motivation with a different kind of programs. And it's on the side of a school, so that's probably a little more valuable because it's not exactly part of their credits or their grades at the school. It's more on side of their uh, extra time, free time. And it's really important that they find some of activities on the extra time of their life. So how we are working at this time, thanks to ASU working with us as partners to do programs for our junior youth group. On that way, we provide different kind of knowledge on the best enjoyable time. So the ages are supposed to be on our project. It was 7 through 12, but it's just incredible how some little ones and olders wanted to be part of, because this is something to learn, but make like a team, a time free, but learning. At this moment about extreme heat, about garden, what is great. So what I think it's important to inclusion. I think the key is inclusion. So when we include new generations on the all kind of problems at this time, and they be part of, they understand, they're definitely a support on our communities. And that is start on individual, familiar, family, and community. So when I start to learn on myself, I'll be ready to share with others. So that's exactly what we are doing with all different kind of programs at Community Center, Salud en Balance, Health in Balance.
Thank you so much. I think with that, we're ready to move to the online, and then we'll open it up for questions. So Ella and Jenny, if you're ready.
Yes.
Good morning.
Hi. Good
Hi.
morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jenny.
And my name is Ella.
And we'd like to take a small moment just to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak and to be able to contribute. Sorry, I apologize for the bell. But contribute to this collective action to address climate and democracy. We'd like to start off with talking a little bit about our community and what makes it special. I think for us, a lot of the cultures and the connections in our community, as well as multi-generational families that have gone through Sunnyside, is what really makes it unique and special. But there's still a lot of struggles.
Right, of course. And I think one of the main ones, especially pertaining to our school, would be students that come from low-income families. And that also contributes to their difficulties to afford healthy food, especially now with inflation of prices. And of course, it being Tucson, there's always the challenge of climate change and the increasing temperature here.
If you can click to the next slide, please. Agrivoltaics. One of the ways that we wanted to address issues such as like food and also look into like energy is also by implementing agrivoltaics in our school. We wanted to test how different crops grew at different times. And one of the things we had noticed were that radishes grew better during the winter out in our control beds. So that was out in the sun. And hopefully we can run an experiment to see whether or not the radishes will grow under PVs, so under the solar panels. And if that's successful, like in the summer, then we can establish a food source and distribute food within our community that is cheap and that is healthy and they know where it's coming from.
Right, and we really try to make this a sustainable thing. So kind of bringing back to that multi-generational aspect of our culture, we wanted this to kind of be the establishing point of a project that can be sustained for years to come.
I also see you might have the slides up, so yeah, we can have it to the next one. And one of the ways that we also wanted to make a difference in our community and have some action was by just having a general climate action. We were able to partner with Tucson Clean and Beautiful, and we went through 4 different steps, which the first was to find it. We wanted to kind of go out into our communities and see, well, what is there an issue with? What we think we can help with? And one of the ones that we noticed is a lot of different things. Flooding at our school, extreme heat. It was extremely hot. And we also knew that we had that issue with clean, affordable, healthy food. And one of the ways that we had decided on addressing it in our planet stage was to have a action day where our STEM club, as well as other people within our Sunnyside community, so primarily the Avid Club, we worked together to have an action day where we cleaned up our garden, but we also learned how to plant trees, which is really cool skill that Tucson Clean and Beautiful helped us develop, which is how to dig basins and how to plant trees. So it's learning about the processes and the science involved, and then applying that to physical work and actually completing that action.
Yeah, so we ended up planting a native tree. Was it a palo verde?
Yes.
A palo verde tree and a fig tree. So hopefully by the time that those grow, those will be another source, sorry again for the bell, another source of healthy food. So students, they tend to like to walk through the garden now, especially since we've kind of renovated it and made it a nice place for students to hang out, kind of get out of the heat. So they can stop by, they can grab a fig, and then we also tackled the flooding issue with the basin.
And if you could continue to the next slide. And now we wanted to continue our work, and this was done through Explore Labs. Thank you, Explore Labs, for this opportunity into now finding another additional project that we feel would really impact our community.
Right, so when we were out and we were exploring our campus, our school campus, another major issue that we found was littering, and more specifically, littering styrofoam. And if you don't know, styrofoam is non-biodegradable, so it will either take hundreds of years to degrade, or it will stay and slowly deteriorate into the soil. And one of the worst places for styrofoam to be is in our garden, and unfortunately, that's where we found the majority of it. So our school uses styrofoam cups and styrofoam trays with every lunch. So we wanted to find a sustainable alternative for styrofoam. So similar to the previous speakers, yes, shout out to Itzel and Andre. We wanted to maybe find a native plant that we could use to substitute for those styrofoam cups and trays. That way, if they do end up in the garden, it will be helping the plants instead of harming the plants.
And we definitely do understand it'd be a lot of work, especially considering how there's around 2,400 kids at our school that each have a tray and a cup provided to them. So you can also see the scope of how big this issue can be when you have either kids not throwing them away properly, or you have issues where there's storms that throw the trash out of the trash cans and into our environment. So it's finding a way that's safe, not only just for the environment, but also for the kids. And I think that's it. That concludes our presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have about 15 minutes for questions. Does anybody have a question already? Otherwise, while you're thinking of one, I have a question. Okay. So my question is for each of you, and we can go in any order you want. But first of all, wow. Thank you for everything you do. I'm curious, how did you pick this thing that you work on? What drew you to it? What's your backstory? And Mauricio, why don't we start with you, if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. So growing up, I've always faced climate change or the effects of climate change, from not having technology available or the energy available to do, say, my homework in high school, or not having just stuff available that I could just take access, or for example, STEM education in my schools growing up. I didn't know what climate change was or what sustainability was growing up. I only found out about sustainability when one of the ASU professors came to my high school when I was a junior, and they started talking about the problem in Haiti. And so that really drew me into sustainability to begin with. But then after being at Arizona State University for a couple more years throughout my undergrad, I came to realize that all of the problems that I have faced growing up, say poverty or just anything like that, especially the problems that my mom has grown up, have also been generational, but have also gained a lot of traction, especially in times like right now. And so I came into this field trying to create change, especially when it comes to youth and people of color. It's become like a sort of stark reality when we talk about climate change, and I kind of want to change the narrative that it shouldn't have to be dark. It can also be positive when we talk about STEM education. For example, the incredible things that youth are doing in education, and the projects they have in elementary or middle school and high school. So it's really important to think about things like this, especially when we apply and create policy changes and create administrative changes in the future, to create opportunities for youth to also be included and for youth to also have participation when it comes to STEM, and also their future in a sense.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, the motivation behind my interest is based on research. So I can ask a question now. Let me say, for example, you want to publish a paper in sustainability, and then you have data set from two different kinds of people. You have some data set from an expert, and you have some data set from students. Would you prefer to use a data set from a student? What is the answer? You're most likely going to collect the data from an expert, right? Because we tend not to believe or trust in the data from students. And that is one of the major challenges in citizen science. So students tend to feel this sense of hopelessness and guilt. They want to participate in sustainability actions and education, but they are not given that opportunity because we scientists, or more matured citizens, we do not believe in the work they do. So the motivation is, why are we not giving students the opportunity to participate in actions that might impact their own future? We are not giving them that agency. So there is a need for us to give students agency. How? By believing in what they do and making sure that their voices are amplified. A very good concept on what I'm talking about is the Turn It Around card, which Dr. Silva is going to talk about, I don't know, maybe, but it's a very, very good concept because it gives students the opportunity to amplify their voice and target it at people who really make decisions, like policymakers and teachers and stakeholders in education. So that is the motivation behind the work I have been doing lately. Yeah, thank you.
Well, that is for me, being the word is prevention. So I am a community health worker. And when I start to work with the community, I've been start on a senior centers and with families. And when I just take my time and see how we can support, it's important to support at this moment for senior centers, for families. But when I go back to there and find how we can support on the better way. So one of the things comes like prevention. And what is the best way to prevention is on the new generations. If we work with the new generations, that's not, I mean, I don't want to work in the future, but that's going to be on the best way to that prevent or awareness for those difficult time on the future. Just like he said, right? If we get ready all areas of the health and on the preparation, education, and on the really we put it our effort on the little ones, on new generations, on the students, I feel that's gonna be on a best way to support a small number. That's not, I mean, like not gonna be problems, no be like a difficult, but probably not the same way like it's happening right now.
Thank you. Over to online.
Hey there. Thank you for asking what has motivated students. I'll let the students go ahead and speak on that.
So what motivated me, since this past summer we were talking about fire safety with the Explore Lab, I got more interested in like more fire safety to help our school. So I was doing some research, and I found out that kind of by us in our little area, the Alhambra district kind of like it has like more than like 6,000 fires like throughout the summer that's passed, and 3,000 is like basically at the crisis for our Phoenix. And we thought like, why is this happening? So we were trying to we did research, and we found out that batteries and the smoke detectors are kind of like good but like not good at the same time. So we're doing research to see if we can use rechargeable batteries, so that way the batteries from like a plug-in won't catch on fire.
In addition to that, I'd like to add on that we've been doing stuff with solar panels. And so the students are trying to find a way that we could make this project sustainable, and that we would be able to recharge the batteries using the solar panels that are above our gardens out in our garden beds. So community members would be able to bring back their dead batteries, and then the students would recharge the batteries and pass them back out to the community, as well as like marketing
Very
and
cool.
communication. And then Itzel?
What inspired like me to like do this was like I think 2 weeks ago I saw some girl with some jeans like made out of plastic bottles. What inspired me is like instead of throwing like plastic, burning it since it can't really burn. I decided to like we hope to recycle and upcycle plastic instead of like burning it, so we can make new items and fabrics out of it, new materials.
Cool. Thank you. Jenny, Ella, what about you both?
Okay. I think the main inspiration for me would definitely be having Miss Coates' biology class for freshman year. So she made sure that she incorporated kind of environmental science into whatever we learned. And that really stuck with me, along with a trip that we took this summer to Germany and Switzerland, where we actually learned about environmental sustainability and what other countries are doing to make sustainable impacts. And now I see it in my everyday life. I look around and I'm like, wow, like that's something that should be addressed. Not too long ago, I was on kind of like a cliffside where I could view all of Los Angeles. And my friend asked me, oh, you're into environmental sustainability. I see that the sky's kind of gray. What would you do to fix this? And I immediately had an answer, and I would point out the things that I would notice. So the amount of cars contributed to the carbon monoxide levels and those, the kind of like the smog in the air, but then also like the lack of walkability and the lack of available food sources, just green life. And I can clearly see it with whatever I do. And I think that that is mainly contributed to or from Ms. Coates.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also partly her too, as well as like both of us, we really have a joy for learning and for doing these kind of things. And I think that's definitely always been a big motivation, as well as that aspect of community and seeing the things that we feel we can make a difference in people's lives and help people. And I think that's one of the biggest motivations, because I am so thankful for these opportunities that Ms. Coates has given us. However, not all of the students, all of the people on our side of town have been given these opportunities to be able to travel to Germany or Switzerland, or to be able to even connect what we learn in school to things we can do outside of school, ways that we can help. There's just a kind of gap missing of relevancy, and people don't really connect how amazing our world is and how much there is to be learned and how much we can do, how much potential we have. And that's something that we want to work on and encourage people throughout. And that's, I think, our biggest motivation.
Thank you very much. Those were rich, rich answers. I have like 8 more questions and we have like 2 more minutes. So one question from the audience, and then I think we'll wrap up. Yes.
It's related to the story of Lesotho about he learning about sustainability by chance in high school. Like, of course, I have a similar experience. I'm older than Mauricio, and it sounds like sustainability was always an option. Like you can be sustainable if you want, if you hear about it, if you decide to, and we have come to this realization that it needs to be like mandatory because we're all part of this world, and we will not solve climate change just by like a few getting involved in this. So I'm wondering, what are your different opinions about what education can do to like make sustainability a central aspect of education and really improve our outreach in sustainability efforts?
Great question. So just in case it was difficult to hear, I think the crux of the question was what can education do to centralize sustainability within education? Cool.
Thank you for asking that question. I'm going to go ahead and answer that. As a middle school teacher, I would say this is that the students are 100% of our future. That we as adults can do a better job trusting our students. We can have fun and we can learn from each other. I think that the students need to be aware of what concerns are in our already amazing communities in order, first of all, to make a difference. So as adults and educational leaders, I think that sometimes we just need to be like a bridge and kind of help launch like from outside of our classroom walls into our classroom, and then allow kids to do real work, to do hands-on projects. And with that does come a little bit of uncertainty because you don't know where these guys are going to take the stuff. But we also, like, it's wild, like they're wildly talented. They just need to get involved. They're motivated, they're capable, and they are definitely able to make a positive impact in our communities for sustainability and for the futures, because our kids do care deeply about the future generation, and they have hope that things can be better. So we're learning and testing out different types of solutions to see what fits us best and how we can get the most benefit out of materials and options and resources so that like everyone can have access to clean air and water and energy and foods that are healthy so that we can impact for like human health. But I think it's really allowing students to take action. What would you girls say about that?
I would just say, like, for us, since we got like kind of more feedback than anybody, I just say that take risks and like say yes to everything, every opportunity, because doors will open once you start saying yes.
We hope to be known for we take action, that we are creative, and we'll work hard for solutions to make a better future.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what you girls have to say also, Jenny and Ella. It's good to see you, by the way.
It's good to see you as
Yeah,
well.
you too. I think the main thing that we were discussing was kind of building off of what Miss Coates had kind of implemented with our classroom, where she combined the material that she was supposed to teach with environmental science and showing us those real life connections and also giving us the opportunity to go out, identify problems, and also come up with solutions.
And I think also too is when it comes to this idea of sustainability, it's not just developing solutions, but practicing the kind of traits and attributes required to create sustainable solutions. So it's encouraging students to think in a certain way and to work in a certain way and to continue working in that way even in their future. And this is like one thing that we think that Explore Labs has been doing really well in having teachers, implement these safety sciences within their curriculum. And it's something that could be really beneficial to students.
And to kind of add to what Jenny said, I wanted to mention the Explore Labs targeted kind of like a critical thing to me. It really stuck with me is that that kind of fear of students not being able to see the hope within the kind of sustainability efforts, kind of trying to see the how do I explain?
Like the potential, like what they can contribute.
Right, like kind of
that we're not
seeing
already
more of
down
the
the bottom.
positives, right? More of the positives and seeing that it's a whole that if we instead try to build a ladder to get out of instead of digging the hole deeper, like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, basically.
Definitely leadership. When we not even just give the power, actually show the power they have inside of them, just to they can grow up more and feel more confident about their own skills. And it's for sure that's gonna be prevention, because they can be ready to handle or support any situation. So leadership, it's for me the perfect one.
Yeah, I just want to say that definitely building the skill set of youth and being able to like participate in say policy or development at higher levels. Youth are going to be the ones who are going to be in your positions now. So being able to just develop those skills and being able to teach them how to be leaders of their own communities. For example, when I was a kid, I would go to Mexico all the time, but I really wouldn't focus about the community or the surrounding areas. But I recently just went about a month ago, and I noticed how the community was just different. As a kid, I didn't really realize the vast differences between my life here versus my life over there. Over there, they don't have roads. They shower in buckets. And I didn't really, I wasn't taught to know how to identify those different say metrics of sustainability and how to like basically be like, oh, this isn't something that people should be living with or living like. So as a youth, it should be just teaching them how to identify sustainability in just different areas of their life, but also how to apply changes in the education of sustainability within their own communities as well. So it's being able to identify and also apply those aspects.
Yeah, for me, I think there's a need for us to give prominence to practical relevance of what students are learning, because there is a very large disconnect between what students are learning and their realities. So for example, most of the time when you go to YouTube to learn, you will see in the comment section, students will say that, I think I have learned more in this 10-minute video compared to me spending a whole semester to learn this from my professor. So we are not giving students what they actually need. So there is a need for us to make that connection. It's a very, very big problem. I was a teacher of chemistry until I started my PhD here. And the major problem most of the time is the students keep on asking the question, how does this connect to my life? Like I'm learning about subatomic particles. How does this connect with my life? But when you touch a doorknob, when it is very dry and humid, you can get zapped, right? That is a very practical relevance of learning about subatomic particle. So it is very, very important for us to make that connection between what students are learning and their current and everyday reality.
Victoria, thank you for the question. It inspired a lot of great answers. I actually want to thank the panel. This was a really amazing panel. What I'm sort of walking away from is that we know what makes education for democracy in a hotter time. We know what to do. We know the characteristics that this education would have. It would be agentic, it would be intergenerational, it would be contextual, it would be inclusive, it would emphasize leadership, it would trust students, it would empower students to do the things they care about, it would connect the local and the global. Like we know what to do. And I just want to thank you for these really inspiring examples of what this looks like in practice. And for the work you do and for sharing it with all of us today. With that, we'll take a break and have some cookies.